you. So it's gonna be a little bit just a chat with Q&A for you about this inclusion project. I'm Eve Colavito from Angelman Academy. First, introduce yourself. So what do you do? Where are you working? Anything you want to share with us? Anything that you think is valuable for this project? Can you tell Rachel?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rachel Marks. I am a special education teacher at a public school, PS15, in Brooklyn, New York. Kindergarten teacher in the kindergarten ACES-ICT classroom. ACES stands for Academic, Career, and Essential Skills. ICT would be Integrated Collaborative Teaching. So it's an inclusion program. And I am very, very much pro-inclusion. I'm very happy to be here and was super proud to launch this program in 2018 with my fantastic co-teacher, Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine Lipkin.
That's a few years ago.
I'm sorry?
That's a few years ago that started.
Yeah, we launched it in our school, the ACES-ICT in 2018.
Yeah.
And Catherine, did you do?
Yeah, so I'm Catherine Lipkin. I am the general education teacher for the ACES-ICT classroom. Rachel and I have been together since the start of the program. At first, I was in my own classroom, but then we got merged together, and I've been her partner since. And like Rachel, you know, inclusion means the world to us because every baby and every child should be together no matter what their ability level is. And so we were really excited to be a part of this. So, you know, we're ready for any questions.
That's great. So what process is just the inclusion in education? What can you define us a little bit? What is inclusion in the classroom? What does it look like in a classroom setting? For people who know?
You know, inclusion, right from the get-go, you hear the word include. So we're all about, you know, all of our children, all peers should be in the classroom together, embracing everyone's abilities so that they can grow and learn and succeed together and learn from each other. You know, children all benefit from peer modeling, and we strive to just have a setting where all of our students are learning together and learning through each other and embracing one another's unique qualities that everybody brings to our classroom.
Yeah. It's not the same from mainstream, right? I mean, mainstream is not it's another setting that you use.
So in our setting, we have about 13 general education students and 4 ACES students.
Okay.
And then we have the 2 teachers, special education teacher, myself, and Catherine, the general education teacher. So, and our curriculum is really geared towards, you know, we're exposing everybody to the same general education curriculum so that everybody's getting the same content. And then as a special education teacher, I'm taking that content and adapting it and modifying it to meet the individual needs of our ACES students.
So that takes you a lot of time, Catherine, right? To adapt.
Yeah, in our classroom, you know, the setting is something that Rachel and I, you know, from the beginning is something that her and I have played with, you know, depending on the type of subject we're doing. If we want to do a read aloud of a story, we could be a whole class setting where her and I sit, you know, either she reads or I read, and we could work with our students, use the talkers, you know, demonstrate and model for them. But there's sometimes materials that, you know, if we're doing a math lesson and I'm teaching, you know, the general ed population can do numbers 1 through 5 in the kindergarten setting, but our ACES kiddos need to start with just the number 1 and doing more hands-on, you know, learning. So Rachel will be in her group, either 1-on-1 or 2-to-1 with her, and working with each kid according to their needs. So sometimes we're a whole class, sometimes we're separated into smaller groups, or even sub-smaller from that. So, you know, our setting is always like, we have enough dry erase boards where the kids can see the work. We make sure that everything's visual. Our kids with ACEs, if they're very, visual, or with the talkers, we have little pictures everywhere so they can identify, if it's bathroom, they have a talker, they can see it at the bathroom. It's very inclusive for all the kids' needs.
Hi, this is Eve.
Thank you, Eve, for coming. Thank you. Can you introduce a little bit about what you do?
So I'm a mom in the inclusion class. I'm the mom of Vivian, who has been in the ACES-ICT class now for 2 years. She's been there with Rachel and Catherine when she was in kindergarten, and then during the COVID year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she was in there both remote and then hybrid for the past year.
That's great. So can you tell us what is inclusion for you as a mom?
I think a lot about starting from a place of universal design, where I think like the mindset of inclusion is that this environment, this setting, this like community that we've created is the best possible community for everybody. I think less about Vivian being included, although that's language that I use, as much as I think about this is a place of inclusion. And so when I think about a place of inclusion, it's where like everyone's gifts and talents are celebrated and valued, where learning is accessed in different ways in order to meet the needs of of the variety of learners, and where learning can be produced in different ways. Evidence of learning can be produced in different ways because the student need and student strengths are being valued so much that whether it's in writing or in speaking or using your talker or performing or making a sign, you're producing evidence that you've grasped a concept. And so I think, my lens is like as Vivian's mom for sure, but I think more so like inclusion is good for the world. Inclusion is great for Vivian, but inclusion is also great for the world because it is a model of what the world we wish to build and create and vision is one of inclusion, where people's strengths and assets and beauty is celebrated regardless of the setting that they're in.
That's amazing. That's amazing, because as you can imagine, here in Argentina, well, I'm in Argentina, I'm a mom, and I don't see that much here present. And they still use the mainstreaming kind of vision, and it's very, very kind of old-fashioned, right? Because it's not the same to have a kiddo in another kind of setting. My own 5 is in kind of the same every year, and I think your vision is so romantic kind of, but also real, because the vision that you think about universal design being something that you can apply across all environments, not just in the classroom, right? That is great. That great vision, and I wish more countries and more people and more we can see this inclusion applied in not just in education, but in all environments, right? So let's go to the next slide, because I wanted a bit to talk a little bit about this inclusion project that you're working on. How did it start? How did you start working on this one?
I guess I can start, and then Rachel, Catherine, you guys jump in. So a group of moms here in New York were having dinner very intentionally one night to talk about the future of schools for our kids, because we all had kids who were like in the 3 to 4, so maybe 2 to 4 year old range at the time. And we were like trying to figure out like, well, when they're ready for kindergarten, what did we want for them? And we just started throwing out like, the best of everything we could have for them. Like they would get like our kids are so social, like, so they would be, and these were all kids with children with Angelman syndrome in that particular case. Our kids are so social, they should be in like with typical peers because that's what's important for them socially. But we also knew that in order for them to like learn and grasp new concepts, sometimes they would need like much more focused, like one-to-one or like small group attention to be able to learn those concepts. but then we'd want them to be able to like transfer and apply those concepts in a larger setting. And so we're like, how do we get this thing where they get like the focus and the attention from like somebody who's like dedicated and skilled, but they also get this like incredible social experience. And so we were just like dreaming at that time. And, you know, our kids in New York, we're very confident that all of our kids, you know, if we sued the city or, you know, applied to any private school in the city, they're all eligible for the, you know, the most expensive special education private school that exists based on their disability. But those schools are not inclusion. Those schools are very segregated. They're for special populations only. And that never felt quite right to me as a mom for what Vivian needed. And so that conversation led to more conversations and led to us saying, so we need an in, we need to like connect with someone who, you know, is willing to take this, to like do this thing. And one of the moms, Nicole, had spoken with the leadership of PS15 as an option because they had an ACES program at PS15, which is, Rachel, what is it?
Academic, career, and essential skills.
And essential skills. They had which is a self-contained program.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was exploring that program for her son. And so I'd spoken to her, but didn't feel like it was right because it wasn't inclusion. And so had this like connection with the leadership there. And I think the way it was kind of like karma and synergy and all like the goodness of the world conspired to make it happen. But the leadership of PS15 had always wanted to do an inclusion version of that ACES program, but didn't like have the backing of the Department of Education, didn't have like necessarily parent advocates who were ready to do it and knew that it was the right thing. But between the parent advocates, the supportive school that was ready to do it, and then us meeting with the Department of Education and saying to the Department of Education, this is something we will get behind, we really want to do, the school is ready to do it. And then the Department of Ed saying, yes, like, let's try this. It's an expensive model, but we want to do this. Somehow those three things all were able to happen. And that launched a kindergarten class at PS15, which then Rachel and Catherine became the teachers of.
Yes. No, sorry. You know, it was offered for me to teach and I jumped at the opportunity because I think that inclusion is just so important. And so this was back in 2018, and that's when we got it started. We had 4 ACES students that year and 13 general education students. It was myself as a special education teacher, Miss Lipkin as the general education teacher, and some really, really amazing paraprofessionals. It's been the most rewarding and fulfilling program that we've ever been a part of. And it's been so amazing being able to launch this for the entire city and to really like grow and learn together. And, you know, we've been so lucky because something that's so important is like having the knowledge and like the what to do. So we've had like tons of professional development and we've been able to really like learn and grow together and have the materials accessible for us to be able to use it with our students. The program started, like I said, in 2018. We've expanded yearly. So our kindergartners from then are entering 3rd grade now. It's been absolutely amazing. All of our students are just flourishing. It's so beautiful to see. And it's not just the classroom, it's school-wide. It's an inclusive environment throughout the entire school. So it's when they're at recess, there are enlarged talkers on the playground so that the kids can go over with their peers. Like we said, you know, they want to be with their peers and their peers can communicate with them, you know, using that talker. And in all teachers throughout the entire school students have just embraced everything, and they're learning through their peers are teaching their peers. And that's for our ACES students as well as our general education students. They're teaching one another and everybody is just growing together, and
And the best part,
Beautiful. And yes, sorry.
and the best part that Rachel and I love to see this past year, you know, despite COVID and everything, when we were able to get together in the schoolyard, and it's beautiful to see how like our typically developing general education students from our class can explain to other kids from other classes why our Vivi uses a talker, why our Jenna is nonverbal, why do they have this poster? And it's beautiful to see them explain, well, you know, she can't talk, but she can talk this way. And it's just wonderful seeing them interact, play, and just, Rachel and I just like to stand in the background and just let them do their thing. Because honestly, after, you know, 1 year together, now the second year together, because now Vivi is going to third grade, all of our ACEs that we had, it's just, it's just been wonderful watching them just support each other and be there for each other. The good, the bad, if one falls and hurts themselves, they're there to support them. You know, it's beautiful. There's a lot of, you see how they just grow with empathy and love and care, and it's all from them. It's all from them.
I see. It's amazing that. And well, our next question regarding this, I'm sorry, I'm going to the question. What have you learned from all this? I mean, I see you going through our takeaway, but what have you gained besides all seeing the girls interacting, besides the family? How is the family interacting with you as well?
One thing I feel like this whole program has taught us, like Rachel and I have been teaching for years in all different settings and stuff, but she said something before that this has been the most fruitful, most enjoyable years that we've been teaching, because honestly, it's amazing to see how these kids can show you with Gen Ed and our ACES kids what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. All the, okay, they may not be verbal, but they show their artistic talents, their love, their writing, even if it's not the writing that, you know, that's age appropriate yet, but they're showing their marks. Their marks have a meaning. And it's beautiful to know that this program allows them to be proud, allows them to be a part with their, you know, their typically developed peers, and it's just magical. I don't know.
And I think also, you know, as teachers, and especially as teachers of like young students, you know, our instincts are to like get in there and help as soon as something happens. But lessons that, you know, I've learned is like, as Catherine said before, like take a step back, because they're problem solving and they're learning more through the interactions with their peers than from us stepping in to, you know, quickly like solve the, you know, the first little hardship that comes anyone's way, and which is a natural instinct for us. But it's just like, take a step back and give them their moments to, because they can take ownership and really get the outcome that they so desire. And it's a beautiful thing.
I can see that. I can see. I mean, I'm sorry, this is just a trial. We're trying out this one. Well, this is just amazing. I mean, the recommendation, what would you recommend if someone wants to replicate this program they're working on?
I think like the first thing I would say is like the partnership is what is so key. Like we are partners with the school, like with Rachel and Catherine, with the other teachers, with the principal, with the special ed coordinator. Like it is a team of people. I feel like we built a village for our kids, you know, like, and I don't, if we weren't all in, it wouldn't work. Like my recommendation is like, it really has to be a village, and like there has to be support from the school, from the district, from the families.
Right.
And I think like all anybody wants is to be successful, right? Like everybody wants to win, everybody wants this to work. And the way it works is that we're all doing our part. And I think, you know, Rachel mentioned the professional development before, like our kids are really unique, like they're really, really special, and they require like a special, like specialized skills to understand how to best teach them. And so I also think you can't start a program like this without investing in professional development and ongoing professional development, because our kids are going to grow and develop and change and need new things. And so whether that commitment is from the families or from the district, like somehow there has to be a commitment to like specialized support for the school so that they constantly feel like they're like bolstered, you know, they're not like flying solo or like on their own trying to figure it out.
Right, because sometimes parents feel like they're left alone, giving them without any kind of tools or resources to work on.
Right.
And something else we also think that like a good recommendation is, you know, just advertising, reaching out to families, because you mentioned, you know, there are lots of families that, you know, they have children and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to look. You know, they can go online, Google search, but sometimes they don't find the answer. So they're, you know, like you said, it does take a village, just, you know, finding the families, putting it out there, having parents be able to search and like, oh, this appears, this program is something that my child could fit into. And so making sure that also like advertising for it.
Let's talk about the pandemic. My question was if you see anything positive or negative in this past year. Are you having any issues on that one?
The pandemic was challenging. You know, space limitations made it really difficult. And unfortunately, in the pandemic, Catherine and I had to split classrooms in order to meet like size requirements, and B, you know, some of our students were only coming to school 2 days a week. We were in person 4 days a week and remote 1 day. And it was really important to us as a school to make sure that our ACES students were in school 4 days a week. Yeah. So in order to do that, we had to kind of split and be in 2 different classrooms for the year when we were in school. You know, we were creative with our inclusion. We would Zoom together twice a day from downstairs to upstairs. We did outdoor learning activities together as a group, but it was not the model that they had in previous years or what we're going back to this year. It was, you know, it was what we had to do for the year to be able to make sure that our kids were coming in person as much as they could and were able to be with, you know, I had all of the ACES students and we had the space of 2 rooms. So that way we had enough space for all of the children and all of the grownups, because there are a lot of adults in the classroom. And we had like all of the sensory gym equipment. So we had some other, you know, it was just, it was not, you know, the program of our dreams that it's been, but it's what we had to do for the year. And, you know, they were still so happy when they got to see each other, whether it was on Zoom or outside. And, you know, we really took advantage of those good weather days to be outside and do group activities together.
Even eat together. Simple as that, just eating together when we could.
But we're really, really excited to be going back to the model that it should be for this school year and like joining back in again. So
what can I take with me if I see this video? What could you do differently from this project that you see I can I don't know, share with other people? Would you do any differently on this?
I think more of, like I said before, just reaching out to the families that are, you know, are alone, you know, they, you know, whether this is their first time coming to this country, you know, they're coming from somewhere else and they may not speak the language, so they don't know where to look, or, you know, the doctors aren't being as supportive of like, you know, here's what you could do in the public school system. This is what you could do, you know, just trying to get the outreach for parents in a local setting, in the communities and the districts, just, you know, to help them out more. Because we're lucky enough to have these wonderful super moms that got together, but it took a group, right, Eve, to get the word out there and to work with each other. And you know, it's hard. I can imagine it's hard. So I think that's something that we would want to work on, is just getting this classroom out there so people know about it. the more of those babies come to us.
Right. So is anything that you will repeat then on this project that you will continue to work on?
I mean, we're just going to continue to grow to grow it across our school. Like I said, we started with kindergarten. Our first group of kindergartners are now going into 3rd grade. So we'll grow them up to 5th grade. And then the question becomes expanding this program to middle school. So there's still, we have it, our school is a wonderful, wonderful place. And as much as I would love to keep our crew with me forever, they're going to grow up.
No, they're just going to stay with you forever. I forgot to tell you.
Well, I can get on board with that.
We can take them. That's okay.
I can get on board with that.
I do think it's worth noting, like, one future challenge that Nicole and I are talking a lot about is, like, when you're in kindergarten and 1st grade, the difference between our kids, cognitive and academic functioning is not as stark. It's clearly different, but it's not as stark as what it will be in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and eventually, obviously, in the future. And so one of the things we're just wanting to talk to you guys about more and think more about is, like, what does happen when, we're reading to learn in 3rd grade and 4th grade, and Vivi and Ryder and our kids are, like, at a very different place. And how do we make sure that we haven't created this, like, 2-tiered academic program where they're just, like, still doing the same things and the class has moved on? And how do we ensure there's still academic connections for them that are at their age level and, age appropriate, even though the academic functioning for our kids won't be there.
Yeah. And that's something, that we've often had conversations about through the years too. And, like, we're just starting to, like, hit that level now. And, in talks with some of the upper grade teachers, things that it's so important to still, like, what we don't want is to have 2 separate, like, areas in the classroom where kids are, doing different things all day. So I think, like, what's really key is always having, like, the start of a lesson be a group thing where we're introducing focus, and, like, maybe we're engaging in a read aloud, and then, or having those, like, important turn and talk conversations, and but a whole group engagement. And then perhaps when you're getting into the meat of the content where the learning is happening, that's where it kind of splits into 2 small groups. And then we come back together again to share out. That is conversations that is happening with the upper grade teachers.
And that's something we're working on. That's a yearly thing that we're still working on. So it's good to
But
see.
this year is gonna be differently because we're still in kind of a pandemic kind of situation, right? So what would you do to prepare for this next year? What are you gonna prepare for? Is there anything that you think is gonna be needed, or are you gonna continue with the same setup?
Well, we're going, like we said, we're going to go back to the setup like we've had in previous years. There are some, we still do have to maintain space in the classrooms. We're still going to have to, understand and really focus with the kids on, we're going to be doing a lot of social and emotional learning, get them, like, to help them through the trauma that they've been through these past 2 years. That's a school-wide focus. Other just safety precautions, mask wearing, and
washing hands a lot when sharing, like, being very cautious of how many, sharing the bins, cleaning them out, like the toys they play with. So things like that.
And even, like, understanding, so our, it's with the maintaining distance, our kids are the most lovable, huggable. I mean, and we're here for it, but, like, we need to be able to teach that, other children have been taught that we need to, maintain distance. So if that means they don't want hugs, we need to respect that. And that can be a difficult thing, because we never want anyone to feel like they're being rejected, but we also want to respect the feeling and the potential fear for some of our kids who have been home for 2 years that might not be comfortable with such close contact with one another. So
Right.
it's going to, be a lot of lessons around that and making sure that everybody's needs in that area are being met.
Yeah, of course. So any kind of resources that you have so you can share with us?
Regarding our school or
Yeah,
the how we're doing-
is there anything else that you want to, I mean, for resources that we can share with our community? Where can I reach you? Where can I?
So we are at PS 15 in Red Hook, Brooklyn, New York.
Mhm.
We
I actually don't know, Rachel, is there anything written about the ACES-ICT program?
no,
Like,
I mean on our school website there is, and
is there?
that's something that actually Catherine and I had talked about earlier to bring up, is that
Like,
the DOE doesn't promote it.
It doesn't, they don't. They
that's
don't.
why I'm saying, like, I think that's
Yeah.
something they really need to fix, because if you're a parent, you're alone and you're trying to search for something like this, you don't find it unless
Yeah, and
it's word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and
so
hard.
if
It's
you were to
just-
search on the like DOE website on the Office of Special Programs, you'd find information about
What's
ACES
that
program.
website? DEO?
For the Office of Special Programs through the Department of Education,
Mhm.
you would find information just about the ACES program, but not ACES-ICT.
Okay, you can later share that with me so I can share it with the video and so people can read a little bit more about the project. Maybe we can do something from the Angelman Academy and write something about you, some kind of post or something, or video more later about this. So we can even have another talk with a little of you if you want to, so we can give you more visualization and talk
Do
about
you
the
guys
project.
remember when they came to make that video?
Yes,
Yep.
and that we've nothing
COVID
happened.
hit.
We should
And it
find out
never-
if it ever got produced. That was gonna be really great. They came and filmed a bunch of us talking about the program.
They videotaped our class. They spent
Yeah.
hours with us. That was supposed to be.
And then the pandemic, it was like just not far before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
That was.
I know I did some Google searches to see if it would pop up.
I know, nothing is. It just like got forgotten.
Yeah.
But that's something that, yeah, the DOE needs to, especially if they want to expand this program to more schools as well.
Yeah.
It needs to be promoted more. And that way, as Catherine was saying, other families know about it. And
Yeah, because I think that what you're sharing is very, very interesting and very interesting to not only to see, but to reapply to other school districts there that could know and like know how the process, right? What would be the process to start on? How do you start with a village, like you said? I mean, how can I connect with other families? What should be the communication? What kind of resources can I have to read on, or videos that I can see about how does this work? That would be amazing to have more about it in depth. So I want to thank you because I am very, very much pleased that you can share with us all about your experiences with this. So I'm gonna just really applaud you because this is just amazing, and you are. I mean, it's very, very interesting that you are talking about this and you're implementing this with your girls, your boys, and with everybody. And I think it's gonna really, really help out the community in where you're at, and it's gonna help a lot of parents as well. So
well, we certainly couldn't do this without the support of our families. So
Yes.
Thank you very much for participating and helping us. And of course, you're all.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.